Hello, my name is Maria Schroeder, and today I will be presenting the Luna final project. The first question asked was, what challenges are typically faced by your party? And I was given administrators. Transgendered individuals face a lot of discrimination from administrators. Teachers don't respect chosen names of transgender students. Students might want to be called a certain name because they are more comfortable with it, but teachers will not allow it because they believe they aren't transgender. Teachers also use the wrong pronouns, which also explains that they refuse to believe these students are transgender. When teachers do this, they are not respecting the identities of their students. Teachers and staff are not creating a safe and accepting environment for transgendered students, which will sometimes lead to worse scenarios. The second question asks, how did your party handle those challenges in Luna? In the story Luna, administrators were not really present throughout the entire story. There was a teacher that was mentioned who knew Luna and Reagan, but never talked about Luna being transgender. Although if the admin had intervened, then it could have caused problems between Reagan and Chris, or Reagan and Luna. Reagan was always trying to keep the secret about Luna because she felt embarrassed, which was unfair to Luna. Administrators could have helped Luna the day she went to the school and was getting bullied by Hoyt about how she was dressed and kept calling her a perv. This bully was always mean to both Reagan and Luna, and it's weird that the admin wasn't there to help. Even though administrators weren't there to help, Reagan was always there for Luna. The next question asked, how does your party typically handle these challenges in the United States? Teachers are known to go against the policies of schools and do what they want to do. An example I found talks about a physical education instructor named Tanner Cross of Loudoun County, who was suspended after he attended a meeting in the Loudoun County School Board and attacked the policy, which in his words he said would be abuse of a child and sinning. He also says he would never affirm that a biological boy can be a girl and vice versa. Because of this, he was suspended in order to stay away from the school, saying he had disrupted its operations. It was said that several parents at Leesburg Elementary School, where Cross taught, had requested that their children be removed from this instruction. By this evidence, it's telling us that he was disrespecting his transgendered students, and the parents were not happy about it. I feel that the school suspending him was the right thing to do. Although he will always be this kind of person and act this way towards other transgendered individuals. But I hope that him being suspended taught him a lesson of how to treat transgendered people. In another article I found, it states that in 2016, Fairfax County School Board weighed new regulations that spell out how schools should accommodate transgender students. These rules would affirm that the students' right to use bathrooms and locker rooms that align with their gender identity and direct teachers to refer to them by their preferred pronouns. The year before, the board approved a policy bearing discrimination against transgender students and staff. It is said that some parents had complained that the school system officials had not been transparent enough. In this discussion, a mother named Meg Kilgannon says school children are too young to be switching genders and that the school system needs to be careful and consider how the policies affect all students. A Latin teacher at West Potomac High named Robert Rigby then gives his input that it'll change the culture in a huge way. It would give clarity to teachers who might struggle to understand how they should accommodate transgender students. It will also make teachers feel safer accepting their trans kids. Some people worry that allowing transgender students into restrooms that conflict with the sex on their birth certificates is a breach of privacy and traditional values, and some also say that it is a safety risk. According to this article, it states that the Obama administration directed public schools across the country to allow transgender students to use bathrooms that align with their gender identity, and to respect transgender students who wish to be preferred by pronouns or names that differ from their birth certificates. This had immediate backlash, and 21 states had sued to have it overturned. Teachers and administrators of schools all have different opinions on the subject, and it is hard for all of them to come to a conclusion. What really matters is how these transgender students feel and that they should be comfortable attending school. In another article titled Music Teachers' Attitudes Towards Transgender Students and Support of School Practices, it states that transgender students are not only harassed by peers, but are also often targeted by the adults employed to protect and teach them. The Gay, Lesbian, and Straight Education Network reported that 80% of transgender students surveyed described feeling unsafe at school due to their transgender expression. 61% of all respondents heard negative comments about gender expression frequently or often, and 57% heard such comments from teachers or other school staff. In this article, it also says that researchers have found that harassment and violence towards transgender individuals was highly correlated with lower levels of education attainment, lower income, and a variety of other negative outcomes, from homelessness to suicide. 31% of those that were surveyed reported being harassed by K through 12 teachers and school staff. Even though some administrators are against the policy of discrimination towards transgender students, there are also teachers out there that want to help these students and make the community a better place. In an article titled Trans Voices Speak: Suggestions from Trans Educators About Working with Trans Students, is written by 4 educators who identify as part of the trans community to fill this gap in literature by illuminating some of the pitfalls inherent in the lack of discussion of trans people in music education. In other words, this article provides 5 actionable suggestions for working with trans students. The first suggestion is to learn about the trans community. Learning about the context in which students live can help teachers know the history, excitements, pressures, and challenges of their students' communities. The second suggestion is to inspect your language and biases. This will uncover long beliefs and biases. If teachers were to inspect the ways that they talk with and about a community, is a step toward honoring its members. The third suggestion is to represent the diversity of trans people in your teaching. A music education researcher named Luis Berganzi says, "We act on a positive impulse to improve how we include and represent historical repertoire and lives of musicians or music from parts of the world remote from where we teach or from musical transitions that were taught. We simply view these considerations as a part of our professional obligation so that our society will benefit from the musical personnel and social assets we believe a comprehensive music education provides. The fourth suggestion is to promote healthy music making and identity development. The article states we believe that although repertoire and technique are valuable to consider when working with trans students, nothing is more important than encouraging every student's sense of comfort and well-being in learning spaces. It also states that music educators should consider the psychological, physiological, and social factors that help or hinder their students' healthy learning and living regarding their genders. The final suggestion is to model allyship. It talks about how music educators can demonstrate their support by visibly allying themselves with and for trans students. The last question is, do you think your party should handle these issues differently? Why or why not? I do think that administrators and teachers should handle these issues differently. It should be about how the students feel and that they should feel safe. It's important that teachers and administration create a safe environment for transgender students, whether or not they are aware of trans individuals in schools. This will enable questioning students to explore their gender and send a message of acceptance to all students. I believe that teachers and staff shouldn't worry about what gender their students are. It is also important to honor a student's choice of name. If teachers did this more often, it will send an important message that they accept their identities, and students will feel more comfortable. Transgender students also get bullied by other students, and students and staff should discipline those bullies and not agree with them and discriminate transgendered students. Transgendered people are more accepting in today's world, but they still face a tremendous amount of discrimination, and I believe that this should be more thought about in a transgendered person's perspective.